So we all know that the Eagles need to make some major changes on defense this offseason, and as they enter free agency, they have a huge opportunity to do that, as there are plenty of impact players that are set to or have already hit the open market, and the Eagles will surely be interested in signing a wide variety of these guys. But there are some of these players specifically that might be really good fits for the Eagles defense, because in signing with the Eagles, they would be reuniting with their former defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. But which of these guys are actually realistic targets for the Birds? Well, in this video, we're going to be looking at 5 different players that the Eagles could potentially look to sign in free agency to reunite with defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, plus one bonus player. And we won't waste any time, let's get straight into it. So we all know that the Philadelphia Eagles defense was absolutely horrible in 2023. I mean, they were easily one of the worst groups in the entire NFL, which really made no sense because just the season prior, they had one of the best defenses in the entire league. I mean, they literally almost broke the single season sack record for a team in NFL history, and they also had the best pass defense in the league, and all around, they were just a really solid group. But then heading into 2023, they had definitely lost some of the talent that they had on that side of the ball, and that combined with the poor coaching of defensive coordinator Sean Desai, and then the switch later in the year to Matt Patricia led the Eagles defense to being one of the worst units in the entire league this past year. Now this disappointing season by the defense prompted the Eagles to go out and make a big change, as they fired both of their defensive coordinators from this past year, and they brought in a very experienced and successful one in Vic Fangio. And Fangio, if you don't already know, has been coaching in the NFL for over 30 years and has been defensive coordinator for over 20 of them. So again, he clearly has the experience and of course a good track record at that position, but he also has a lot of reach and connections across the league at this point. And as the Eagles enter free agency, that could turn out to be very beneficial for them, as there are plenty of players set to hit the open market that have already played under Fangio and have had some success under him. And for some of these guys, maybe they see a potential reunion with Fangio as something that's appealing and could be helpful for both sides. So let's take a look at a few free agents that have played under Fangio that the Eagles should be interested in signing. But before we do that, I want to talk about one guy that hasn't played for Fangio, but has recently been mentioned multiple times as a big name that the Eagles should go after in free agency, and that is Chiefs star cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, as the Super Bowl champion is coming off a fantastic season where he led the stout Kansas City defense, which, by the way, was the 4th best pass defense in the league in interceptions and passes defensed. And now, the guy enters free agency with a chance at a big payday, and with the Chiefs having limited cap space and also having to re-sign Chris Jones this offseason, and also with the Eagles seeming to have a need at the cornerback position, people have started to speculate that Sneed could maybe end up with the Eagles, as NFL insider Matt Bowen predicted Sneed would end up signing with Philly, saying, quote, "Upgrading the cornerback position is an offseason priority in Philadelphia. With Sneed, the Eagles land one of the top veteran free agents who has the coverage skills and ability to produce in Vic Fangio's system." Now, while I must admit I like the upgrade of Sneed over Bradbury, and I also like the idea of having a star cornerback in their prime, I really just don't see this happening. I mean, Spot Track is predicting Sneed is going to earn a contract of 4 years worth of around $65 million, which would be $16 million-ish annually. And with the Eagles having other needs elsewhere and limited cap space to sign new players to huge contracts due to having to sign their own players to big extensions, plus with all the young cornerbacks that the Eagles have, I really just don't think they'd invest that heavily to bring Sneed in. But what do you guys think? Do you see Sneed to Philly as a realistic possibility? Now, actually starting to get into the former Fangio players that the Eagles could sign, let's start with one that has been heavily discussed over the past few days, and that is former Bears safety Eddie Jackson, who was just released by Chicago a few days ago. Now, Jackson is coming off the worst year of his career in 2023, registering just 37 tackles and ranking as just the 76th best safety in the league according to PFF this year. Plus, he also did just turn 30 years old in December. However, in 2022, Jackson actually had a really solid year, putting up 80 tackles and 4 interceptions while being ranked as the 13th best safety in the NFL by PFF. And going back to his time with Vic Fangio when he was still in Chicago, Jackson was very, very successful, with 2018 being the best year of his career as he was selected to the Pro Bowl, he was named an All-Pro, and he also put up 6 interceptions, 2 of which he returned for touchdowns. So would reuniting with Fangio and Philly end up being a good move? I don't know. I mean, the Eagles do have a need at safety on one hand, as Kevin Byard is likely to be cut to save cap space this offseason, but that being said, Jackson did just have a really bad year last season, and you have to wonder if he's a little bit washed up at this point as he just turned 30 years old. And my opinion is that the Eagles defense just has to get younger and faster, and I'm just tired of having all these old guys, especially in the secondary. And also, I really just don't think that you can rely on Jackson being the sole answer at your starting safety spot. But then on the flip side, Jackson probably isn't going to be paid very much by any team in free agency just based on how he looked this past season, and one bad year doesn't necessarily mean that he's completely washed. And maybe getting back in the Fangio scheme and in a new environment with more talent is just what Jackson needs. So honestly, I might consider bringing him in to maybe compete with some other guys for that starting safety spot opposite Reed Blankenship if you can get him on a cheap contract, because if you take a step back and look at it, this is a very low risk, high reward move, because who knows, maybe Jackson still has something left in the tank and the Eagles could end up getting him for a steal. That being said, what do you guys think? Would you sign Eddie Jackson to a cheap contract to see what he can do? Now, the next guy that I want to talk about is Andrew Van Ginkel from the Dolphins, because with the whole Hassan Reddick situation going on, if he does get traded, the Eagles are going to need some sort of replacement for him, and Van Ginkel could potentially help with that and also add some versatility to the defense. As last year under Fangio, Van Ginkel played a hybrid role, lining up as an inside backer, but also as an edge rusher at various points, and he saw a lot of success in that hybrid role, putting up over 60 tackles, a career-high 6 sacks, and being the highest graded player on the Dolphins' entire defense last year. So I think it's very clear that Van Ginkel's versatility made him incredibly successful in Fangio's scheme, something Coach Vic himself foresaw when he became the Dolphins' defensive coordinator, literally calling Van Ginkel amidst his free agency last year and telling him to stay in Miami because he thought he'd be a great fit in his system. So I personally think that Van Ginkel would be a great addition to the Eagles' defense, especially under Fangio, and I'd love to sign him, especially if Reddick does end up leaving. And while we're on the topic of Dolphins players, another guy who the Eagles should have interest in is safety DeShon Elliott, who's coming off a one-year run in Miami under Fangio where he put up 82 tackles, 7 pass breakups, and a pick in 15 starts. Now again, the Eagles do have a need at safety, and Elliott had some success under Fangio last year, as I just said, as well as with the Ravens and the Lions in the past. Plus, Elliott probably wouldn't cost too much to bring in. Last year with the Dolphins, his contract was worth just $1.77 million, and while he should probably earn a little bit more this offseason, it shouldn't be too much. So the Eagles should definitely be able to afford him, and on top of that, Elliott is just 26 years old, and he's got plenty of good football left ahead of him. So, although he's no star, I do think that Elliott's a guy who's a serviceable starter and can come in and compete for a starting safety job. Plus, in addition to Fangio, Elliott was also coached by Eagles now safety coach Joe Casper in Miami. So I definitely think that Elliott could be a very realistic option for the Birds to bring in this offseason, and I do think he would be a pretty good fit. Now moving on, one other intriguing former Fangio player that the Eagles could maybe look to bring in this offseason is edge rusher Leonard Floyd, who has really turned into a really good pass rusher over the course of his career that of course started in Chicago under none other than Vic Fangio. Now, Floyd didn't have the best years of his career while in Chicago, but he did have some solid seasons, including a 7-sack season in his rookie year, and then after a stint in Chicago, he went to the Rams and became a guy that could consistently put up around 10 sacks a year. He most recently played for the Bills, where he put up 10.5 sacks in 2023, and honestly, I gotta say, I think that if Hassan Reddick does end up getting traded and isn't back with the Birds next season, Floyd at 32 years old could be a great short-term replacement while the Birds continue to develop Nolan Smith, and it'd be for much cheaper than Reddick. I mean, Spot Track has Floyd projected to make around $8 million annually on his next contract, as opposed to what Reddick wants at around $25 million annually. And you also might be able to get Floyd on maybe a 1 to 2 year deal, so I personally think that he would be great in that rush linebacker role that Reddick has thrived in, assuming that, again, he is not back. And should that happen, Floyd should be high on the Eagles' list of free agents this offseason. Now, I haven't heard too many people talk about this, so what do you guys think? If Hassan Reddick is gone, what would you think about Leonard Floyd as a potential short-term replacement? Now, the last guy that I want to talk about is the linebacker from the Broncos, Josey Jewell, who really developed into a solid starting inside linebacker during Vic Fangio's tenure as the head coach in Denver, as Fangio made Jewell a full-time starter and gave him the green dot as the quarterback of the defense when he was there. And Jewell now has 3 years with over 100 tackles in his career, with the first one of those coming under Fangio in 2020, and he's just overall at this point a pretty solid player, which of course we all know that the Eagles have a big need at the linebacker position, and they could use just a solid player there. And Jewell could potentially come in and just be a serviceable option for not too much money, and of course he's a guy just like all the other guys in this video excluding Sneed that already has experience playing in Vic Fangio's scheme and has had success. Now, I personally would like to see the Eagles go and try and get an actual real difference maker at the linebacker position for once this offseason, which I'm going to talk about that a lot more in depth as we get deeper into the offseason. So I don't know if Jewell would be my first choice, but again, I do think the guy's a solid player, and I definitely would not mind if the Birds went out and signed him, assuming again, it's for the right price, just like all these guys. Now you guys can let me know what you think about any of these possibilities down in the comments below, and while you're at it, if you did enjoy this video and want to show some support, make sure you leave a like, I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, if you don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage just like this, make sure you subscribe and also really importantly turn on notifications. Free agency is about to start up in a few weeks and things are going to get crazy here on this channel. So again, make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. And if you want to watch another video going over a big change that the Eagles could make at the running back position this offseason, you can check this out right here. Now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.